I'm the captain. And I'm the captain with an improperly applied alpha transparency. And we are going to fix your mat. No, we can't. The reference is too ancient. They're not going to know what this is.
Stupid.
They're not
It's
going
lame.
to.
They're too young.
I agree.
It's kind of offensive.
But like, there's no time. There's no time. The upload schedule. The
upload
YouTube algorithm is
schedule, man.
evil.
What are you gonna do?
Compositing is the process of putting parts of images together into one image in a way that you can't tell for sure that it was done. While your grandmother was using scissors to cut boy bands out of magazines for her collage, elsewhere, visual effects artists were compositing moving images together optically. By blocking out light on specific areas of the picture with black and white matte shapes, they could expose different elements onto the same frame of film, one at a time, all adding up to a single physical copy of the composite that then had to be dunked in chemicals, dried, and copied a few more times before a noticeably degraded version could finally be seen by an audience. That sucked, and didn't match the vision of visionary filmmakers who had the vision to say, just don't do it like that. Do it different somehow. Make it easier. And better. Make it better. Just think about it. And we like to think that we've evolved past these primitive techniques, but the truth is today, digital images are kind of composited the exact same way. Only instead of film, it's math, and instead of optical printing, it's math. Values representing brightness in the red, green, and blue channels add up to define the picture, and an extra channel called alpha, for boring math reasons, contains the values defining the matte. Where do these mattes come from? Well, as you know, sometimes they're drawn by hand, other times they're the result of a fancy chroma keying process, and occasionally it's just some kind of magic voodoo, don't worry about it. And unlike in the grimy, filmic, analog past, a digital alpha channel can be stored right alongside the color, so the image file is conveniently distributed with its transparency in supported formats such as GIF and PNG. White represents opaque and black represents transparent. An easy way to remember that is that it's the way that a silhouette isn't. Why is it that way? Because of math! How many times do I have to say it? If you want to put an alpha-matted picture of me over a background, you have to take the color channel's pixels, multiply their values by the values of the alpha-matte's pixels, invert the matte, multiply the color pixels of the background picture by that, add the two results together, and kablamo! It's like I'm really there. Well, you don't have to do any of that. You just drag the picture over, the fancy software figures it out for you, and you get to put VFX Generalist on your CV. But of course, it's not as clear-cut as that. There's always a gray area. Literally. In anything more advanced than a GIF, gray values define partial transparency and allow for smooth anti-aliased edges. This is very helpful, but also scary, for it tends to awaken the mysterious gatekeeper of confusion, looming in the way of every aspiring VFX artist.
Pre-multiplication.
What is it? Why do I have to juggle these settings every time? How many guesses do I get? Relax. I got you. Remember that first step in the compositing process where you multiply the foreground image by the matte, basically masking the color channels with black? Usually it happens during, well, the compositing process. But sometimes it has to be done back when the original image gets its alpha matte. Most 3D software, for instance, combines its various render passes that way. So when this multiplication has been done in the original image, pre any compositing, it needs to be skipped during compositing. You need to tell the software the file's pre-multiplied. Otherwise, you'll be doing the multiplying twice. The partially darkened edge pixels will become even darker, recede into the image, and show up in the composite. You won't notice and put the shot into an otherwise decent video, upload it to YouTube, it'll get lots of views, and you'll just have to leave it up like that forever, like an amateur. On the other hand, if the foreground image wasn't pre-multiplied and instead goes straight into the composite, but you tell the software it is pre-multiplied, the step gets skipped completely. The entire foreground image is added to the matted background, and the parts of it that are supposed to be invisible get ghosted! The whole point of pre-multiplication is to harness that ghosting thing so you can have opaque, semi-transparent, and emissive or glowing elements all in the same image, compositing properly using just one alpha matte. And yet, modern, mainstream, user-friendly VFX apps don't even take advantage of that! Secretly, they only want to work with straight images. When a premultiplied image is loaded, instead of saving a step, they take an extra step to scare it straight. Unmultiplying, also known as dividing, the color channels by the mat, the darkened pixels are brought back to full brightness, no matter how compressed and degraded they are, just so they can be dissolved over the background the boring way. You actually have to lie to the app to manually get the result you want. Things seem to still kind of work as intended in Luma keyers of live video switchers, but in most software, the alpha interpret dialog is just a passport control gate for checking which files can be let through and which need to be forcibly altered before being allowed into the boring, all-straight alpha world where the benefits of premultiplication are lost, but the matting artifacts still show up if you don't choose the right setting. It didn't have to be this way. Pictures and video files contain tons of metadata with all sorts of detailed info: resolution, bit depth, frame rate, resolution, and it would have been great to have just one more standard, universally recognized tag that simply said if a given image is premultiplied or not. But for some reason, we don't live in that universe. We live in a universe where some formats have this kind of metadata, while others try to avoid the problem by only letting you save one way, but most just force you to kind of play around with the settings until it looks right. The only solution to this mess is this: awareness. Understand how alpha transparency works, decide on a compositing workflow, and stay consistent. Or, when collaborating with people, communicate clearly about how alpha should be treated every step of the way. Or, just use AI, or whatever it is you kids do. Train a generative adversarial network on some time-lapse footage of people photoshopping memes. Diffusion converge, or reparameterize strategic equilibria in an architecture matrix of these